Hello, good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are in the world. Welcome to the Celtic Down Under weekend review. My name is Anthony Maguire. I'm joined by Paul and Dave as we look at Celtic 3, Dundee United 0. Another victory in the league, another 3 points. Extended our lead to 16 points until Brother Beaton gave the Huns a little bit of a helping hand at Tynecastle yesterday. Last time I checked, a push in the back was a penalty, but hey, apparently it's one for one and one for another. Anyway, let's not digress on that rabble. We'll start with you, Paul. How was your weekend, mate?
Yeah, very good. I'm taking a little sabbatical off the booze. So day 15 today. Probably longest in quite a while. Pretty fresh. What did we get up to? Watched a couple of bits of stand-up. Was at a show on Friday night and a show on last night, Sunday night. And then obviously the game in between, which was an 11 o'clock kickoff for us here in Perth. So I sneaked a wee hour in before kickoff, which kind of saw me go through the game. Back up at 11, finished at 1 a.m. and then off to bed. But yeah, probably about as routine a victory as you could hope for between two massive ties in the Champions League. So yeah, great weekend all around, mate.
Dave, how was your weekend, mate?
Yeah, not too bad. Done a wee bit. It helped. Done a wee bit of kind of volunteer work and help people. So one of my friends in the pub and stuff like that. Missed the game because of that. Couldn't get a full replay of it because it was only on Celtic TV. And I couldn't get logged into my Celtic account for some reason. I'm still waiting to hear back from them. So I've caught up with the highlights and read quite a bit and done what I needed to do to catch up on that. But however, yeah, other than that, it's not really been a hectic weekend other than kind of helping out doing that and keep myself busy, which I'm trying to do a lot now because same as you, I think maybe I'm drinking too much. So it's time for maybe me to take a wee break of it as well.
Fair play. And not like Celtic TV live help desk to take forever to get back to you with a login or some assistance. Anyway, I was actually at dinner on Saturday night, so it was my wife's birthday during the week. So we went out for dinner with another couple and 8 o'clock start, and I was in the back of the taxi or Uber at 11 o'clock, so I was watching the first 15, 20 minutes on my phone with the sound down until I could get home. So I was a bit sort of playing catch up. And then, I don't know, I sort of remember bits of the game, and then there was bits of the game where I don't remember. So I managed to catch some extended highlights, thankfully, which caught me up. But yeah, I totally don't remember Adamida's goal. I remember the first two goals, but I must have dozed off at some point. Because as you say, Paul, it was a very comfortable evening. There was no real threat or feeling that we were going to chuck this one away. So I guess that plus a cocktail or a couple of wines, and it being after 11, I was ready for a wee siesta. But anyway, other than that, it was pretty quiet weekend. So, but yeah, it was good to get the result on the back of mixed fortunes in Europe, which I'm sure we will allude to and touch on as we look at the Dundee United game tonight. I'll just bring in some of the comments before we get started with that, if that's all right. So we've got the Port Schlop Express. Obviously, that's a new headline for this gentleman. Morning, folks. Morning to you, sir. Quite like that one. McLaughlin P with his usual skippy kangaroo. Yep, good to see you, mate. Thank you. Yes, we are live and unfortunately running 5 minutes late or 10 minutes late. That was my fault. As we've said many times before, this doesn't pay the bills and we all have day jobs. And unfortunately, mine's dispensing prescriptions an hour from my house. So just a little bit of time getting home. McLean beaten combo. Yeah, that did Afi Simtex. That's referring to the Huns' blind hand of assistance last night, keeping them in it. And then McLaughlin P saying that he had two people sit in his seat. So he sat somewhere else instead. So anyway, all good. All worked itself out. Paul, a few changes, obviously. Brendan Rodgers doing his usual freshen up from midweek. We replaced our fullbacks, so Ralston and Schlupp coming in for Taylor and Alistair Johnston. kept our keeper and centre halves in position, but bringing in Luke McCowan and giving a rest to Diaz and Maeda, which meant Jota started with Yang on the other wing and Adamida up front, freshen things up a wee bit. Take it away. What were you? You're probably the only one that had maybe had a preamble before the game actually started. I didn't really have much time to think about it. I just turned it on and started.
Oh, well, to be fair, I set my alarm for 5 to 11, so not too much. Obviously, got up and saw the team and was like, look, we knew and hoped, well, we certainly hoped and expected that there would be a bit of rotation. Obviously, Paulo Bernardo getting injured is a bit disappointing. He's out for up to 5 weeks potentially, because you assumed that he would play otherwise. So yeah, Ole McCowan in the midfield. So you do worry a wee bit about the work rate that McGregor and Hatate have kind of got to get through. But yeah, good to see the wings sort of varied. Ages played a lot of football. Good to give him a rest. Schlupp needs game time, so great to see him start. I think both of the fullbacks can be proud of their performances and contributed well. I'm sure we'll get into the detail on that in a bit. And then, yeah, I think you obviously want Dyson to have a rest. I think the amount of minutes Ida played in that match almost certainly points towards Maeda through the middle on Tuesday. And I don't think too many people would be disagreeing with that, given the havoc he caused when he moved inside in the game the other night. So I'm sure we'll circle back towards the end of the show and sort of look ahead a little bit to that game, and with a bit of the rear view mirror of this one and the first leg. But yeah, I think Yang's obviously come on to a little bit of a game in recent weeks, so fine to see him sort of be able to have the opportunity to push on again. And Jota obviously is come off, started a bit of a flyer. I think a lot of us expected that he would take a longer period to get up to scratch, and he's flying. And so, yeah, again, just for him, it's minutes in the legs, the old cliche, and hopefully, I think there's a good chance he might start on Tuesday as well, based on how influential he was in this game, and obviously the fact he got another 65-70 minutes under his belt. So yeah, great. Happy with the team lines. I do feel like we need to find a way to rest McGregor a little bit more throughout the remainder of the season, but we're nearly there, right? Massive game on Tuesday, and if we can somehow produce a miracle and get through that, then you probably want to find a way to rotate him out before further games. But beyond that, you've got the cups opened up, and there's only a few games left in the league to seal it. So anyway, like I say, we're in the home stretch now, and he's got through a power of work. And the same with Hatate. I didn't think Hatate probably had his best game. He looked a bit disappointed coming off, and I've heard various views on that. But again, we'll probably dig into that in a little bit more detail later.
Dave, we obviously, you've obviously seen the goals and seen some of the highlights. Some of the highlights are a bit limited. Some of them are better than others. I guess just in terms of statistics overall, the match, 7 just shots on target to 2. I don't actually recall Dundee United having a shot on target, but apparently they had 2. We had 76 possession, which is usually around our 75%, particularly at home. That's fairly standard in the league. 14 corners to 0. I think that sort of sums up the amount of attacking sort of threat, and the fact that we probably carried most of the ball in the middle to final thirds. 9 fouls to 7, which is amazing again, considering we only gave away 25% of the possession. But Dundee United with 3 yellow cards and their keeper with 4 saves to our 2. But I dare say Kasper Schmeichel has not had an easier day at the office. I guess with one mind to Bayern on over in Germany on Tuesday night or tomorrow night. Yeah, tomorrow night, Wednesday morning, our time. I guess one of the things is with the main sort of selection headaches Brendan basically has is Schlupp or Taylor at left back, and then also looking at either Maeda down the middle, because you'd say that the last 20 minutes that we had at Celtic Park against Bayern Munich when Maeda went in the middle, we seemed to cause them all sorts of problems. So for me, they're the 2 real sort of things. And I'm not really looking for an answer from you right now. It's something we'll probably circle back to at the end of the pod. But what were your sort of thoughts from what you've read and what you have seen just overall in the game, and then I suppose lead us into the first goal, because as Paul alluded to, we want to rest Callum McGregor, but it was an individual brilliance that broke the lines and got us off to a flyer. So, what were your thoughts?
Yeah, well, based on what I've seen and what I've heard, I've listened to some of the other the more mainstream reviews of the game as well. We didn't get out of second gear, yet we dominated the game on Saturday. Like, and one of them mentioned, one of them says that's where Celtic are at the moment. We outside probably one team and the odd bad performance, we are in second gear dominating Scottish football, and I actually think it helps us more than it hinders us getting into these European games, because it means we can rotate with the quality, especially we've got in the midfield, and that's what we're doing. And Brendan Rodgers is managing that really well this season, really well. And in regards to Callum McGregor, the first goal, Yang does well, first of all, on the right-hand side. He comes in. I've noticed in the past couple of games that Yang has started to come inside more, not as good as, but as similar to what Nicholas Kuhn does from that side, and trying to kind of engage the defenders so that they're coming out and giving the space in behind. Yang's, I think, biggest failing over the past season or so has been that he constantly tries to go on the outside, and when he gets the ball and that's shut down, he just has to go back the way. He's not doing that anymore. He's coming inside and he's picking the pass. He picks the pass to McGregor. McGregor's in 8 yards of space, a circle of 8 yards of space or something like that. And he just drives in. He drives in. He keeps the ball tight to his feet. He knows exactly where he is. He knows exactly where the goal is. There is, and we'll touch on it again, I'm sure, but there was a bit of criticism of Greg Taylor in the Bayern game that he couldn't show Elise down the outside, but sometimes, and Callum McGregor's a good example, is sometimes you just can't get that close. Sometimes when the player in front of you is just better than you, there's not a great deal you can do about it because he's just too good, and that's what Callum McGregor.
The only mitigating factor I'd say with the Greg Taylor goal was the fact that the Bayern player got a lucky bounce to the ball. Yeah. The ball came off Greg Taylor's shin and it just sort of landed in a perfect position for the Bayern player. So there's a wee bit of fortune for Bayern, a bit of unluckiness for us, and particularly Greg Taylor. But I guess Greg Taylor's become the whipping boy of our team, and like whenever something goes wrong in the defence, you always immediately everyone points to him first, if nothing else. And yes, could he have done better? I think he probably could still have done better, but I kind of feel like it was one of those ones where the ball just bounced and came off. It landed funny and it broke that way. But sorry, I don't want to interrupt you, but yeah, carry on.
Yeah, and as I say, I was only bringing it up as an example of sometimes you just can't get your foot to the ball. The player who has the ball at his feet is just better than you. And I think that's what happened with Callum McGregor. He was just better than those 4 Dundee United defenders who were around him. He had the ball at his feet. He knew what he was doing. He drove in. He used his ability and his skill to make the space for the shot, and he finishes it really well, low and hard, into the bottom corner. And then about 5 or 10 minutes later, he had just before the Jota goal, he had a very similar chance, and he put that just past the post. Yeah, and he put that just past the post, and it shows and I agree with you. I spoke to somebody who played with Callum McGregor, and even people who have played with him say he is an absolute machine. They don't know where he gets it from. They just don't understand how he can go and play 50 plus games every single season, because that's what essentially he does for Celtic.
Well, it's very un-Scottish like, isn't it? Really, because usually we're not the greatest. We're not the greatest athletes in the world. If you ask Gordon Strachan, Paul, we're stunted. We don't have the athleticism of other nations and other nationalities and all the rest of it. But he definitely has it in spades. But Brendan Rodgers sort of stating that the goal was almost like a hark back to the first time that he was at Celtic Park as manager, that sort of goal, because he was a bit further forward. But for me, and this was where the BBC pundits picked up on it, was the quick feet. It was a load of little small touches that just couldn't allow the Dundee United players to get close to him, as Dave was saying, but also just couldn't get a tackle in, because he just, if they'd have lunged in, they either would have looked daft or it would have been a penalty, because he just had such tight control and he just manages to get his shot away. And the keeper just, who I thought had a good game, just beat him in the bottom corner. What was your take on the goal, Paul?
Yeah, you're spot on. And Rogers is right to point out it's a bit of a rollback, because we have seen McGregor higher up the pitch this year, obviously scalped a few from outside the box. It was nice to see him actually go and drive at players and commit players. Great footwork. As you say, sort of tricky inside the box, couldn't really commit themselves. And to Dave's point, yeah, he did it from the other side. And that was actually went blocked. That went for a corner. We got a corner from that. So yeah, the defender on his arse basically managed to get something on it, and that's why that one steered past. But I think the game kind of we needed that in the game at that point, because we'd sort of, United played really, really deep first half, and not to their benefit. I think obviously we'll come to the second half in a bit, but they set up more aggressively and pressed us higher. And whilst they never ultimately got anything out of the game, they certainly looked more dangerous, and I think we found it more difficult to deal with. But they were very passive first half. They were happy to sit very deep and then just hit it long and hope for the best. But in that, because they were structured in that way, we were obviously mostly trying to get round the wide positions and get it in the box, and they were really well organised. It was quite difficult to break through. So it sort of needed a player to go and try and commit a player or two. And then they didn't know what they were doing. Like they were set up. Goodwin had them set up to deal with us passing through them or around them. It felt like as soon as a player went and committed players in a dangerous space, they were a bit like, oh, this isn't part of the game plan. We're not expecting Celtic players to do this. We're expecting pass. So both McGregor and Jota say similarly, if they actually went and commit players and put themselves in a dangerous position to then shoot, it's pretty much what broke the game open. And obviously we got a reward in pretty quick succession. In that period between the first and the second goal, there were other chances. We really started to turn the screw, and Jota really got a grip of the game. Most things were going down his side. And yeah, it could have been, Jota's goal was the second. That could have been the third or fourth by that point. We were
Schlops had his chance by then, didn't he?
He So basically, I think in order, it was McGregor, the goal, McGregor again, then Jota around the outside, a great header by Ida, and a really good block with the feet from Walton. Ida can consider himself pretty unlucky there. We've pretty much done everything right. Great ball in. He heads it down, back the way it came. And yeah, the keeper just managed to get something on it, and he's made a good block. And then you're right, the last one was Jeff Sloop. And I thought he had a very good game. Obviously, still a little bit of rustiness here and there, and a little bit of not quite fully in sync with Jota. There was a couple of times where they kind of both ran to the same space and kind of got in each other's way in the first half. Obviously, none of which would have hit the highlights. But yeah, that's just time and getting to know each other. But most went down their side. And yeah, he cut in, and he's just probably got a bit too much bend on it. If he hits that straighter, it's probably in the top corner, but it just has a little bit of drift and bend, and it comes flush off the post, and there's a fair amount of power in it, because it sort of flies back into the box, and no one can react on the rebound. But at that point, the screw was really being turned. Jota was either involved in everything on the ball, or he was making runs around players to free up space, and that's kind of what happened there too.
Dave, I guess one of the things that I sort of saw, that caught my eye, was the fact that Jota was giving us a lot of width. He wasn't sort of drifting inside that sometimes our other wingers have done at other parts in the season. So just dragging, basically sitting wide to receive the ball with plenty of space, so then he can attack the space. But the right back at Dundee United, he had a torrid time trying to deal with him. He tried to man mark him, couldn't get close to him, backed off him. That wouldn't work either. But the goal, the fact that, like I say, Jota was out wide, plenty of space, but Schlopp just giving him the run just to open up the space and create the channel for him then to drift inside and talk us through it. Because for me, as much as Callum McGregor's goal was individual bit of brilliance, I quite like the second goal. I thought there was just the movement off the ball was as important as the movement on the ball.
Well, yeah, I agree, because I noticed that about Schlipp's run to take the defender away, to give Jota the space to come inside. And what's been, I think, mentioned rightly so from lots of different places, but it's absolutely right. Jota's got the ability to do lots of things with the ball, but he's also got a final ball. He's also got the final pass, the final shot. That he doesn't just, he's not a one-trick pony, and he doesn't just he doesn't just provide tricks. You know, he's got something in him that's always going to provide a finished article. And that goal epitomises exactly what I think sometimes we have been missing, because and it was evident in the third goal as well, and we'll come to that. But when Jota comes in, he's done everything from there on the 18-yard line. And when we've got we come up against teams who sit deep and play that low block, then we struggle getting anything from that 18-yard line, because they're always very organised, they're well drilled, and we just can't break that down. So we get to the 18-yard line, and often we have to go back out to 25 or 30 yards to keep the possession. This time, as Callum McGregor showed with the first goal, and then Jota now in the team, the defenders don't know where we're going. They don't, when Dyson Maida's on the left, he's not got all the tricks. He's a the Energizer Bunny, and he's going to run you, and he's going to hit the byline, and he's going to try and pull the ball back or get a cross in or have a shot. He's not going to try and do a trick, beat you, and then deliver a final ball. But Jota's doing that, and that second goal is perfect, because he comes in, he does that, Schlipp takes him away. He's got two other defenders that are in between him before he hits the shot, and they're just backing off him because they absolutely have no idea what he's going to do with it. And then the shot's, it's a great shot, because it looks as if it bobbles, but it doesn't. It's deliberate. He's hit it low, he's hit it hard, and he's put enough on it so that it's bouncing right in front of the keeper, and it's out with the keeper's reach. It's a great goal. It's a fantastic goal, and it's a good team goal in the sense that may not be lots of passes around it, but everybody's moving in the right direction. Everybody's rotating properly, and Jota's given the space to come inside, dance along the 18-yard line, and finish expertly. And it's something I think we have missed. I don't think we've had that since he left the first time. We've not really replaced that. Palma might have looked like it once or twice, but he just didn't have the finished article. Well, Jota has got it. And if somebody's just said in the comments, if this is him not fit, what's he going to be like next season? How good is he going to be? And it's mentioned again, it was mentioned over the weekend by some of the people as well, he's only 25.
We're potentially getting his best years of football.
Absolutely. And I think he's such a good signing, such a really, really exciting player to be looking forward to. And the kind of our history, we've had these players in midfield forward lines who've been so creative and so entertaining, and I think he's going to fall right back into that category. And he's and I'm glad he's back. I'm really glad he's back, because I really, really like him.
Well, he typifies the player that gets you up out your seat. Like his ability to go both ways. So he's ambidextrous. He can go to the byline, cut it in his left. He can come back in his right and score goals. So, like as a fullback, it's a nightmare, because show him the line, all right, but that doesn't necessarily mean it's the end of the story. I kind of felt that Palmer and Kuhn were kind of one-trick ponies at times, where always cut inside. Kuhn has varied his game a little bit more this season, and varies it a little bit. As you said before, Dave, Yang does have a tendency just to do the one thing. So he's varying his game a little bit. And I agree. I think he's passed inside for one of the chances. The first roll, it was great. So he, so I think it shows that you need that versatility on the wing. You need to be able to go both ways. And that's what creates the doubt in the mind of the defender. And then in turn, that's what puts the defence under pressure, because you don't know whether it's going to the byline that's cutting back, or whether they're backing off, and all of a sudden he cuts inside and is able to have a shot, because they're basically camped on the 6-yard line and they're too deep. And that gives us the opportunity to get a shot off, and it's a good goal. So no, I think Jota's looking very much the signing, but it's still early days, and it is great that we've got the options of Maeda, Jota, and Kroon for those sort of 3 wide positions at the moment. Paul, was there anything you want to add in that second goal before we move along?
Good analysis, guys. Just the slope run's great because the defender goes with him and he just realizes too late that it's a decoy run. It's never really going to get to him, and then he steps back out. By that point, he can't get close enough. And I thought Luke McCowan's run was decent. Like he runs across the defenders and sort of gets in the keeper's eye line, and that probably didn't help him either. And the only last thing I would say is it was not. We just talked about the other wingers. I thought it was quite reminiscent of some of the goals that Nicholas Kuhn has scored, where he's sort of drifted back inside and just sort of picked his spot in the far corner, and it's just sort of. Like he hit it decent. It's a decent hit. He's not absolutely smashed it. He's just sort of used the curve, used the bend, and put it in the far corner. Great finish, great goal, and really at that point, the very least we deserved. Like I say, it could have been 3 or 4 by that point. And you are kind of just looking for the third just to completely close it out. But if we're being honest, there didn't look too much chance of getting anywhere back from 2. But that whole negative, it's dangerous scoreline 2-0. Only if you lose a goal or 2 is a dangerous scoreline. But it's a great goal and it kind of really sort of rounded out a good 35-40 minutes of play.
So we're in at halftime, 2-0 up, 2-0 the Goods. I think a couple of the key points I sort of picked from what I can remember from the first half was that Luke McCowan does give Celtic a bit of extra energy. He seems to be Brendan's go-to man for post-European fixtures. So he is getting game time. He's obviously not getting to feature so much in the European games, but he is relied upon to give that spark and that extra bit of energy to sort of jive the midfield up a bit. And I kind of feel that his work rate was pretty exceptional, and he sort of he just gave us a lot of work rate, a lot of press and counter press. And I think Dundee United, as much as they didn't really offer much of a threat, we kind of put them under so much pressure every time they did get the ball off of us that they just turned it back over again. So a lot of that was down to him. And I kind of felt that although Atati, as you say, Paul, had a bit of a quiet game, I think it was the fact that he sort of probably went above and beyond to sort of mitigate some of that second gear itis, as you say, Dave, that like we're a bit of a canter and still sort of dominating that game. But I think Dundee United sort of set the stall out to try and keep it tight. Probably a little bit like how Celtic set up against Bayern Munich, because we kind of didn't go hell for leather right from the start of that game. All right, admittedly, we could have scored in the first minute of the game. And I must admit, I thought we had scored the first minute of the game until obviously Adam Media was ruled offside, interfering with play. But I kind of feel that we just wanted to sort of see out that half to nothing each and then grow into the game and potentially, then turn the screws on Bayern and put them under a bit of pressure, which is what we ended up doing. But unfortunately, conceding a goal right on the other side of half time that just sort of made it obviously mission impossible, but just took the ability for us to probably get a result in that game. But I kind of felt Dundee United did something similar. They were trying to get in at half time, nothing each, keep it tight. And then the second half, you did see them start to press us a lot higher and put us under more pressure to see if they could maybe jag something back. And it never really came to much, but they still made it probably a little bit more difficult for us for about 15, 20 minutes at the start of the second half, just to sort of, not allow us just to sort of settle into our usual passages of play and really dominate the game. But obviously, as the game ground on, we started creating a few chances again and we ended up getting the third goal. But Dave, was there sort of anything in the second half? I know it's hard if you're just sort of highlights and reading things and whatnot, but was there anything up until the goal that you sort of saw that you wanted to make mention? Or sort of halfway back?
I mean, I don't think so. From what I've listened to, what I've read, what I saw in the highlights extended and stuff, and just mention here, the Scottish football highlights are absolutely shocking. I really don't understand why the SPFL don't have their own YouTube channel or something just to put better highlights on. Sports scene is just a disgrace. It's not the pundits are okay, but I mean, what do we get? 6 minutes or something each game, something like that. And if Celtic have scored 3-4 goals that's your goals and that's it. You're not seeing anything else. But I think, to be honest, I would be very surprised. I would have been surprised if it had been anything different in the second half in regards to Jim Goodwin was always going to change the tactics, probably because we had, from what I'd seen and what you guys have said as well, we dominated the first half. So he didn't want to go in and take a do, and he had to maybe challenge a wee bit higher up the pitch. Celtic maybe just at that point where keep the ball, we'll get a chance, we'll finish it off.
Oh, Dave, your microphone's just died, mate. Don't know what's happened there. You with us? Nope. Paul, second half, what did you see?
Yeah, well, as I sort of alluded to earlier, they really came out and pressed aggressively second half, which I guess, yes, Dave was sort of starting to say you need to kind of do something. You're 2-0 down at half time, and there's no real point in just sitting and try to keep the score down. I do think that if they employed those tactics a bit earlier, they may have got a bit more joy. That said, you can't, it's hard to press a team aggressively for 90 plus minutes. But yeah, I think it's not often we get pressed in the Scottish League. Obviously it happens in Europe, and sometimes we really struggle at points to play through it. And there was periods in the first portion of the second half where they did sort of make it troublesome, and we're just going back to the keeper, and Casper kicked the ball out of play a couple of times. So yeah, I think they did pretty well. They didn't really create clear-cut chances from it, but they stopped us getting out, and I guess the press coupled with maybe the foot off the gas a little bit
saved a thrashing.
Yeah. But you kind of so their tactics first half were to really sit in deep, play it long, and hope to win something and have a set piece. And they threw a couple in the box, and there was the odd easy save for Kasper Schmeichel. Second half, obviously the press higher up the pitch, and again the net position they would have been trying to achieve is set pieces where they can put us under pressure. But I just thought at times we struggled to play through that press. And it was a bit ragged, and you sort of go, well, if you're struggling with United's press, how are you gonna do in the Allianz? But it is a challenge, right? Because we don't see that very often. And I think if teams had that go at us, and we're well, it's relatively straightforward to set up and be organized in two banks of five. It's a much more tactical, challenging event to try and press the best team in the country in a way that makes it difficult for them to play through. But we have shown a susceptibility to struggle with that on the odd occasion where teams have pressed us. So yeah, I thought United played much better second half. On the one hand, they're really strong defensively. Yeah, we eventually broke them down and ran over the top of them. In Derby, they've got a guy who scores a lot of goals, and without him, you probably think they're a bottom half side.
His 10 goals in the league have made all the difference. Because they've got him up front.
They're probably a bottom half team without that. They've obviously just slipped to fourth. But they've been up in third principally because of his goals and clean sheets, because that defense is strong. You reckon they're probably one or two players away from being a really good Premier League side. Probably a bit.
Jim Goodwin's no mug. I mean, he had a blip at Aberdeen, but I think he's a solid manager. Once he gets organised and he gets his own players in, he usually sets up a team that
it's not particularly. It's not particularly attractive to watch, and especially not if you're playing against it, but it's functional. I think if he could, the problem in that size of club is players won't, if players show good form, somebody else will pick them off. But yeah, if you can keep the core of that side together and add maybe one creative player in the middle of the park, they could push on. But what you often see with these teams that sort of gets third or fourth or fifth is they'll do that one season. They might even get a crack at Europe, and then that'll be too much for them to handle. People will pick off some of their best players and offer them more money, and next season they'll be struggling against relegation. And it's that ping-ponging that makes it difficult for managers, and obviously fans get frustrated, and then daft stuff happens, like Stuart Kettlewell being hounded out of a job when look what's happened since he left.
Or Aberdeen winning 11 games or 12 games in a row and then not winning another 11 games after that, and then finally getting a win on the weekend, and they're still third. How does that happen?
I know.
bonkers.
Well, it shows how tight that sort of 3rd to 12th is, to be honest. Like maybe 3rd to 11th.
Yeah.
But yeah, basically just a little bit of a kind of. I thought United second half were pretty good in the circumstances, and obviously we made changes and got rotated the squad again and got players on, which, as we've talked about a lot on this show, is that 65 to 75 minute mark is potentially sometimes where we can be a little bit susceptible to the opposition kind of getting back into it while we're getting set. But it wasn't the case in this game because we had so much quality come off the bench. And yeah.
From 62 minutes, Engels on, Maeda on, Jota off, Hatate off, and at 71 minutes, Taylor on for Schlupp and Kuhn on for Yang. So I mean, it's not a bad bench to bring on. Hey, Dave, are you back with us, mate? Can you hear us? Are you with us?
Tell me, can you hear me?
Oh, yeah, I can hear you. Fantastic, you're back. Just before you jump back in, Dave, I just want to say, please, to everyone that's listening, please like and subscribe to the channel. Liking the episode helps other like-minded Celts find us online. We are all the socials above. We've got our little thing up here again, so we're back. So on Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, Twitter, refuse to call it X. Dave, last goal, was it the best goal? I mean, the build-up was interesting because Greg Taylor has a shot. The keeper pulls a really good save. Ralston straight on with the press, and he's the one with the cross back in, and then Ida with you'd have to say, a heavy first touch, and then absolutely scalps the life off it into the top corner. What were your thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, I think for the technique of the strike, you've got to say it's the best goal of the three. I'm with you. I don't know if it's a good touch or a bad touch, to be honest. It does look as if he takes a heavy touch. But what he has done, like all good strikers, good players will do, is once you have taken that bad touch, what do you do with your second touch? And often that's the most important thing. And he's caught that exceptionally well. He's caught it flush. He's not even just put his foot through it. He's actually guided it into the top corner. And away for the keeper from a reasonably difficult angle. It's not an easy angle to score a goal from. And yeah, it's a great goal. I mean, I noticed that some people were having a bit of a go at Ida on last Wednesday when he got taken off and he went straight up the tunnel. And I was like, well, maybe he's picked up a knock. Maybe he just wants to go up and get. A lot of players now go straight in and get changed.
It was freezing cold. It was freezing cold.
Exactly.
All the Iron players with jackets on before the game. It was absolutely Baltic. So I mean, I can understand why you would want to fucking sit in the touchline after the game. I get it. Like, it's freezing.
I think he's someone just now that people are kind of going, well, we've paid so much money. He's only 22. He's a boy. He's got a couple of years of learning left before he hits anywhere near. He should be getting questioned every week.
Is he 5 goals in 5 games or something like that? Like he's banging almost a goal a game.
He scored two great goals against Aston Villa.
Since Kyogo's left, he's pretty much a goal a game. So I mean, you can't ask much more than that, can you? And I have to say, like he puts a shift in. Like he's not Kyogo. Kyogo would chase anything down, but then you have to ask yourself, was it stupid running? Because sometimes with Kyogo, he chased something that even he was never going to get, and you say, well, is that wasted energy? So I mean, if you're smart with your press and you put the pressure on when the pressure needs to be put on, and he can form a unit with Maeda and Kuhn or Jota, whoever the other winger is, what's the issue? But like, he works his socks off. I felt against Aston Villa, he worked his socks off. He didn't get much change out of Bayern Munich. I mean, not many forwards do. And I thought he deserved his goal. He worked hard, and it was literally his last touch before he came off the park. What more are we after at the moment? Because he's basically been handed the centre forward role, so it's up to him to grab it. And a goal a game average at the moment, you got to say he's fulfilling that, isn't he? Well, I mean, is that fair?
No, I think you're right. I think you're 100% correct. And I think what's got to be taken into account is you're right. Adamide is not Kyogo, and he's not Daisen Maeda, and he's not a small, jinky forward that's going to make all those darting runs. What he is a big physical unit, and he's going to hold the ball up. And we struggle, especially in Europe and in certain domestic games. Sometimes we need that. That's his game as far as I'm concerned. And then when he gets he's great at running across that front post. He's great at being in the 8 yards of that goal. He's fantastic at it. He's a penalty box striker. We've not had that. I know Kyogo's had a wee bit of that in him, but Kyogo's best game was coming deep, touch, move, round the back. What Aida is somebody a bit different, and I think we don't always play to his strengths, which is unfortunate for him, because a lot of the time we have to have that more intricate play to break teams down. We can't just hit the ball long domestically against Dundee United or Ross County or St Mirren, hold the ball up, and get people flocking in, coming off the press, coming off the layoff. So we don't often play necessarily to either strengths. However, what he does, which is really football intelligence, is go for that ball. When the ball comes back across from Tony Ralston, he puts himself in a position where if that ball breaks, he's getting it because he's not been picked up. That's game intelligence. He knows that if he's in the middle, it's going to be difficult because they've got big centre halves that are going to be able to come and challenge him. So he'll pull back, and he's got the ability and he's got the technique to fire that in at the top corner. And that's a good striker.
Well, I think the other thing is the fact that, his first touch, I don't think it was great, but he had the intention of taking a touch and he was hitting it. And it's just, sometimes it's the intention. It's, he knew what he was going to do, and he executed, and it was a great goal. And I think just being decisive and just deciding, look, this is what I'm doing. I've got the space. I'm taking a touch and I'm hitting this. I mean, and the fact he should have a bit of confidence because he's scored some absolute cracking goals, like some important goals for Celtic. So, you can't say should be short in confidence. And, this is his opportunity. If he carries on the rest of the season scoring a goal a game, he's going to end up with 20? Would he end up with 20 plus goals for the season? And then all of a sudden you're saying, well, yeah. So I mean, you're thinking, well, he's going to put a significant challenge up if Celtic are to sign a striker in the summer. Then he's saying, well, actually, this is my jersey. If you want it, fight me for it. Paul, any thoughts on all this? I mean, where are you at with the Adamida thing? Because I mean, I think he's done everything that's been asked of him since Kyogo's walked out the door.
Yeah,
any thoughts?
Yeah, absolutely. So on the goal, it's 100% a heavy touch, but it actually plays in his favour. It takes a little bounce up, and he's got the ability to then make the most of that. It sits up really nicely. He hits it cracking. It's a great finish. You're not stopping that. And that puts a tin lid on the performance, and he gets himself off, and Johnny Kenny gets the last sort of 6-9 minutes with the added on time, 10-11 minutes. The one thing you might say is, at 2-0, you go, well, maybe you could get Ida off. He's going to be needed at some point against Munich. And then, is there game time for Johnny Kenny? And then he gets his goal. So, vindicated to keep him on. But as I said earlier, if he's playing 84, 85 minutes on Saturday night or Saturday afternoon, is he starting on Tuesday? I don't think so. And as much as I'm a fan of Adamida, and I do think he's really stepped up, he went through a rough patch. He wasn't getting a lot of game time, but was it 13, 14 games without a goal? Even if you're only getting bits and pieces of games, you're going to want a goal during that period. I've talked a lot about whether it was Ida or Kyogo. I don't think we have provided either of the best service this season. And there was a few in the early half, and you may have not seen these if you've only been on highlights and the like. He made some brilliant runs. Peter Grant picked them up in commentary on Celtic TV. Brilliant runs that players just didn't see again, and they were effectively dead runs, wasted runs. He's nowhere near the finished article. Yes, he can hold the ball up, but it still bounces off him a bit too easily. And there's definitely bits of his game to be polished up, but he's a natural finisher. I think he's another one of these players. And I think we've talked about this before. If he's got too much time to think about it, maybe it doesn't come off as well as it could. If he's just got one touch or two touches and not much time to think about it and just react and work on instinct, great. And we've to Dave's point, we want to see him between. Then I've mentioned a lot. We want to see him between the posts in the 18-yard box. And if we get service in there, he'll score a ton of goals, especially in the league. All of that said, I think the absolute right decision would be to start him on the bench on Tuesday. In the 20-minute cameo, we saw Mira through the middle. He put fear of God into those centre backs, and that's quality centre backs playing for Bayern Munich. Because he can play through the middle and off the wing, his movement's great. He can drift off the front. He'll press those centre backs. Errors will be made. We'll be able to get higher up the pitch more quickly. And yeah, maybe once we've won the tie, he can come on and get another goal just to finish it off. Obviously, being a little bit facetious, but yeah, I think it's a bit horses for courses as well. At the end of the day, we've only got Ida as a textbook striker, but Maeda in the period has shown he's absolutely capable of giving us an option through there, and I think that's where we'll start. And if he starts out there, then you've got to expect that Jota will get minutes from the beginning, because even if he's not 100% match fit, he can go inside, outside. He's got danger. I have to disagree with this comment, actually.
Totally disagree with
that. If there's one thing that I cannot stand, is this thing about they're not a £9 million player, or they're not a £5 million player, or they're not a £15 million player. You can get Zip for £9 million in the broader market these days. He was 21 years old when we paid $9 million for him. He scored goals that pretty much won us a double last year. Without him arriving in January, we don't do that. The way we went around that transfer,
we deserve what we got, didn't we?
wasn't the best, but that's at boardroom level. Ultimately, it's not the player's fault. I think you'll find both Ida and Engels will, when they leave the club, will have contributed a huge amount to the team while they've been here. They'll go with a stack of medals and they'll go for a profit. So I think he absolutely is an instinctive striker inside the box. He's very much in the Giakoumakis mold. Gets the ball, one touch, finish. We give him service in those areas. His goals against Villa prove that. Both goals, he's in the right place at the right time. The first, especially, where he's sort of twists his body to get his leg high above the hip and just reacts and steers a really good finish in.
He's 22. He's 22. We're basically getting it's a young Giakoumakis. Like, we're getting Giakoumakis at 28. We're getting him at 22. So if we get another couple of seasons out of him, 3 seasons, and then we sell him on, then surely you're talking 20, 25 plus, and you've made your money back. And he's banged in 20 plus goals a season in the process, if not more. I mean, it'd be great if there's more. But no, I think there's definitely a player there. And I think this is his opportunity. He needs to step up. He's got the rest of this season with only Maeda for that position to really make it his own. So, if we go back for Kvaratskheim or for whoever we sign, in the summer, like, he has that claim on that jersey. And it's like, well, Brendan Rodgers then has a decision to make. Like, well, he's got us over the line,
We need 2 quality strikers at Celtic. There's enough games that, 30 minutes for one, 60 for the other, and in rotation, horses for courses as well. Think of the games last year between January and the end of the season where it wasn't working for Kyogo, or Ida just offered something different. The header at Far Park, and then the follow-up finishes afterwards. Really, you cannot underestimate his importance to the title push last year. And yeah, maybe the price tag did weigh heavy on him. But that's not his fault. He's a young player. It got dragged out. A lot was made of the fee. A bit like Engels, that maybe weighed on him. But both are really coming onto a game at the business end of the season. And I can only expect that they'll go on to be better again next year.
Right. Okay. Cool. Right. I will draw a line under that one. That was good chat. So basically, man of the match, I'm totally undecided. So, Paul, Dave, you've got your 30 seconds to sell your man of the match, and I'm going to be sold on who sells it best, because I could name half a dozen players. So, who wants to go first? Are we ready? Rock, paper, scissors, or somebody going to who is that want to volunteer, or what?
I'll go first.
I'll let Dave go.
All right, Dave, fire. You've got 30 seconds, so go.
I think, from what I've seen, what I've heard, that I'll go with Jota. I think he's making a difference to the team already. He is scoring goals already. He's putting me a smile on his face again. I I think he could have scored a couple more. He's creating. I just think he is, based on what I saw, it's between him
10
and
seconds.
Calmac, and I'll just go. I'll nick in with Jota. Jota's my choice.
All right. Fantastic. Jota, right. Paul, 1, 2, 3, 30 seconds, go.
Well, I'm going to go with Jota as well. He's every other than Carl's goal, which his goal was excellent. And to be fair, his all-round play was very, very good. He just controlled the midfield, but we never really got out at second or third. Jota, for me, every bit of danger in the first half came down his side. It's Jota for the win for me.
Jota on the wing for the win. Was he the official man of the match? I didn't actually see who was the.
He was the daft bit man of the match in the ground. I don't know. I don't know if there are other man of the matches handed out, but I'm not sure. I'm not sure.
My old man definitely thought McCowan had a good game. But yes, all right, I'll go with Jota because you went the same way, and it just shows that we don't script this. This is completely unrehearsed. And it's just off the cuff. So thank you, lads, for guiding me home. And yes, I must admit I was leaning towards Jota, but just I wanted to hear if there was any other hot takes on that one. A few comments that I've starred throughout today. Mahesh, good to see you back in the comments, buddy. You have this comment here that I tagged up from a bit earlier on. So it's saying that Taylor lost the game for Celtic. Mahesh, very, very black and white. Schlopp has to play. Has transition, speed, seems better, and he has a strong physical presence. And then Gaddafi Semtex also saying that Schlopp needs to start in Munich. And McLaughlin P saying, let's give the 25k a week we're going to give to Taylor, or Taylor's been asking for, let's give it to Schlopp. So the rumour mill is that Schlopp is on 60,000 a week at Crystal Palace. We are paying half of that, so we're currently paying about 30, which would make him just about the top played player at Celtic, maybe outside Callum McGregor. What are we thinking, guys? I mean, it's early days. We're obviously just starting to see what Jeffrey is capable of. Two questions. One, should he start in Munich on Wednesday morning, Perth time? And if the ability to sign him in the off-season becomes available, would you like to see him be the offset to Kieran Tierney? Because we know Kieran Tierney's coming, but can Kieran Tierney play 60 games a season? Highly unlikely. Dave, I will give you the floor first. And you've got a minute to answer both those questions.
I'm 50-50 on Jota Taylor for Wednesday morning. I'll just let Brendan Rodgers decide that. He knows it better than I do. I can see the arguments for both. I think, as I've said before, Greg Taylor takes a bit of a doing sometimes from the Celtic fans as well as everybody else about he's a whipping boy. That statement about he lost the game. This is a world-class footballer. He was up at least he is a special player. He's going to rip other people to shreds, and Taylor didn't do that badly against them. Like you say, bounce to the ball, and he's just a quality player. And it's an outrageous goal that boy scored. As for Schlupp, I would have no problem having him and KT rotating. However, are we going to pay KT 30-35 grand a week and Schlupp 30-35 grand a week?
That's a fair point for left backs.
Schlupp's 32. I don't think we're going to do that. I would love that to happen because he's very versatile. I think he can probably play centre half and left mid as well. So we could get a lot out of him. It might be worth it. I can't see the board signing that off though. I really can't.
Yeah, no, that's a fair point, Paul.
Because it was one of the arguments for no keeping Greg Taylor. He wants 25 grand a week. We're not going to do that for a backup. So we're not going to.
That's a fair point, Paul.
Well, I think we're not going to do that for Greg Taylor as a backup. It doesn't necessarily mean that the money's not there for somebody else. Look, Jeffrey Schlupp's a multi-millionaire. Many times over. It kind of depends what he wants to do, I would say.
Can you do a Joe Hart?
Well, why not? Like, Joe Hart came for 15 grand a week. He made all his money. He played in the Premier League. Schlupp's played most of his career in the Premier League at Crystal Palace and Leicester City. He won the title at Leicester City. Why not? Why not? Like, if he gets a feel that this is where he could play out his next 2 or 3 years of his season and sort of potentially finish his career at a really big club at a high level. I don't know. Like, it depends. If he's willing to drop to 15, 18 grand a week, why not? The alternative to that is a player in the similar mold to Alex Valle, is a young player from academy at a really top level that can't get a game, and ultimately is going to vie and with KT and be mentored by KT, and potentially ultimately, replace him or work through that.
I wonder if Benfica's got any left backs on the books that
we
can.
Well, I'm surprised we have. I'm surprised we haven't taken them before now. And what was the other question? Was who else starts? Was it Jota?
Who starts? Schlopp or
well?
Taylor,
I'd love to see Schlopp start. I think the comment about knowing Elise from their time at Palace is a really valid one. He's obviously more physical than Taylor is. He's got a few inches on him. My concern would be he's obviously played quite a few minutes. So has he played minutes to allow Taylor to be rested so he's more match sharp, or has he played the minutes to get them in his legs, and is he going to be ready to go again against Bayern? My gut feeling is, and this has been sort of consistent throughout the Champions League, I've wanted Alex Valle to start. Now I want Schlupp to start. I expect
Greg Taylor will start.
Greg Taylor will start, yeah. And I've been consistent in that. That's what I've wanted to happen. And each time I expect Greg Taylor to start. And I guess that's probably what will happen again. I do think it's a danger, though, because, without slating Greg Taylor, he's been a great servant, but he is targeted in these fixtures. And it is a complete and utter mismatch, him against Elise out on that side. So you do worry that another slip, another little misposition, and we're in real danger and the tie could disappear.
Dave, the other question I'll pose to both of you, Dave, you first go with this one as well, is just who starts up top? Would you go with Adamida or would you go with Dyson Maeda?
No, I'll go with Dyson Maeda. The reason being, and I heard this and from of all people, Gordon Dale on the Super Scoreboard podcast. And listen, I like Gordon Dale; he's quite funny, but he every now and again he makes sense. And he said, not just the fact that he can score goals and he's got the pace to move into the attack, he shuts down properly. Like you were talking about, Kyogo sometimes shut down for no real reason and was a bit erratic sometimes when he's chasing. Dyson Maeda's pace and shutting down ability is exceptional, and that's what caused a lot of problems in the first half at Celtic Park. We gave them far too much time on the ball so that they could build an attack. If Dyson Maeda's up front, I think he shuts that down quicker. And when we are in maybe transition and trying to get up, they did panic against him. Absolutely. He panicked the life out of them. And Dyson Maeda has now added finishing to his game. I think he starts. I think Jota starts on the left. Kuhn starts on the right. And I think that is a wicked attack. I really do.
Have a go.
I know, honestly, I'd rather go and have a go and get beat 4-2 than just see the game out, and get beat 1-0, 2-0. I'd really rather have a go. Because nobody expects us to win. I think I give us about a 10% chance of winning in the Allianz at most. So if we went out there and scared them and still get beat maybe 3-2, 4-2, do you know what? Hands up, that would be a game.
Have a go. Yep. No, that's fair. Paul, what do you think? Maeda or Ida to start up front?
Same. And I obviously said it in our analysis that I don't think Ida plays 84 minutes on Saturday and then starts on Tuesday. I think he'd have been off earlier if that was the intention. So, Maeda for his defensive work, and also just his look at the chances that were created when he moved into the middle. He nicked in front of Neuer, and he was unlucky to pull that one too square across. There was mayhem all around those centre backs when he was buzzing around them, and if anything, they will. But we're already 2 down when that starts. If we can get that from the first minute, they'll come out and try and overpower us in the first 20 minutes, half an hour, and take the tie away from us. Sort of, sap the energy, kill the momentum, put the tie beyond us. That's what they'll want to do. Maeda, Jota, and Kuhn, ably supported by a midfield with Engels in it and producing sort of proper athletic press. And I just think we don't go gung-ho. It's got to be controlled. But I think if you've got Maeda buzzing around them,
the quick break's always on, isn't it?
You give them something to worry about, and just little errors here and there break up their momentum, if nothing else. And even if it's not creating for us, it's gonna disrupt them, and I think we're gonna need to disrupt their flow to get anything out of the game.
Final thing I
Do
would
you
just say is that Dave, are you up? Yep.
Do you know what's just came ahead? Do you remember the European game under Ange? I think it might have been the start of his second season. When Jota broke from the box, we defended a corner. Jota broke from the box and passed the ball right through to Kyogo, and he just took it and scored. It was a great goal. That's what I think the Jota Maeda link might be able to do, because Dyson Maeda, because that's when Kyogo had the real pace, that first or second season was, and Maeda's definitely got that. So that and Kuhn can do that as well. We can get the ball, take one or two touches, and up the park. And I think that might be the difference of us being able to actually get something or not.
I would just say that we need to just tighten up on set pieces, because Bayern Munich's corners were all hitting the back stick. And in fairness to Alistair Johnston, he won 3 good headers to clear the ball away at various times from other corners. Unfortunately, I don't know where he was. He was supposed to be marking Harry Kane at the start of the second half for that goal. Him and Engels tend to get a bit tangled into each other and both try to go for the same ball. So for me, that's something that needs to be tightened up. I think the warning sign was in the first half, because Kane had a free header at the back stick in the first half and just missed it. And he got a connection on it, but he hit it past the post. So that was kind of like a let off for a, hey guys, he's hovering around the back post. But some of the comments just saying maybe we should be utilising an Adam Ida or someone a bit taller to maybe pick up Kane. But I just kind of feel that we need to be a bit smarter there, because he's obviously a target man. He is a threat in the air. We just need to be a little bit smarter about it.
Well, does that lead us back down the Schlupp line, because he's got the physicality to deal with Harry Kane. I think Liam Scales could probably do it as well, but Schlupp would probably be better at it.
Yeah.
I don't have an issue with AJ picking up Harry Kane. He did a pretty good job. He got slightly caught under it for that one you mentioned just in the first half, and he headed into the side net, and he could have possibly done better. He has an absolute brain meltdown for the goal. But I think you've got to give a little bit of credit to Bayern Munich's sort of set piece setup. Because the goal comes from the third corner in a row, give or take. It's some semi-clear.
A lot of pressure. Yeah.
But it's not even just that. It's the one before it, the same. So there's 4 players marked, and then there's space marked. The man marking was fine most of the game. For that goal, or just before the goal, the 4 players that were man marked went to the back post, and then they all came into the centre area, and their men mostly got with them. In fact, AJ dropped Kane because he saw the ball dropping in a danger area, and he got to it first and cleared it on the volley. Didn't make a full clearance, and eventually they recycled it, and it went for the next corner. I think from the shot from the edge of the box, was it maybe Sanye had that shot that just sort of deflected to the edge of the box. Then it comes in when it's ready to come in the second time, or the third, Kane drops right to the back, and there's a bit of a crowd seeing 3 players in front of him. I think Alistair Johnston is assuming that they're all going to run in to the same area. So he gets a little bit slack, and there's 7, 8, 9 yards between him and Kane. He's not even close, never mind touch tight. But all the other Engels has got Goretzka, I think it is. Taylor's got Aguero. I'm trying to remember the other pick. Trusty's got I can't remember. He's got Omacano. So they've got their markers, but there's just too big a gap between AJ and Kane. And AJ's, I think, assuming that he's going to come in.
He's anticipated, and he's anticipated wrongly, hasn't he?
He's too far away, and then he gets caught ball watching. He follows the ball. He doesn't. By this point, there's no idea where Kane is, and Kane's just held his position and then comes in. And obviously, we all know what happened next. 4 yards out, inside the box, smashes it in. No chance. It's 100% an individual error. And that's basics. You wouldn't see that. You wouldn't accept that in a schoolboy team. So Alistair Johnston's had a major issue there, which is a shame, because overall he had a pretty good game. He was one of our better performers on the night. But yeah, we just need to. I don't think there was anything too wrong with the way we set up in terms of those 4-man markers. It's just the execution in the set pieces, and it needs to be better, and the Allianz will get punished again.
Okay, we'll draw a line under that there. Dave, any recommendations for this week? Because we're over an hour, so we'll start wrapping up.
So I mentioned a couple of weeks ago, I've been listening to a podcast called It Was What It Was, which is two journalists. I can't remember the name at the moment, but it's in the same line as a few others. But they talk about major issues in football and major stories that have happened all over the past 100 years or so. But one of the things they spoke to a gentleman called Miguel Delaney, who is a journalist and a writer, an author, and he's written a book called State of Play, how sports washing has taken over football, how sports washing has taken over football. And I listened to that podcast today, and I'm going to buy that book because it's fascinating. And I won't give too much away, but it sounds like one of these books that makes you really understand how this is affecting the game and why it's affecting the game so much. So
what was the name of that podcast again, Dave?
It's called It Was What It Was. It's on Spotify, and I would imagine it's all on plenty of other channels. And it's really interesting. There's a lot of English stuff because they're English journalists and talk a lot about, some of the World Cups and stuff like that we wouldn't listen to. But there's a lot of really good. There was a really good. There was a really good four-parter on it about Saki and how he changed football. And how the fact he was a shoe salesman, which I didn't know. And he just turned up at AC Milan at one point and changed the game. So yeah, stuff like that. It's really interesting. So I would urge both of those. Listen to that podcast and Miguel Delaney's book, State of Play: How Sports Watching has taken over football.
Fantastic, Dave. Thank you, Paul. What have you got for us this week, mate?
Yeah, so just this one's more for mostly the Aussies, I would say. I know we've got viewers and listeners from all over, but there's a couple of recommendations for Australians predominantly. Some even for the Perth crowd. So band I've really rated, made them the album of the week a few months ago. Fontaines DC out of Dublin. They are playing as part of the Perth Festival, and they're part of a Australia-New Zealand tour. They're playing at Red Hill Auditorium, fantastic outdoor. It's a nightmare to get to, but it's a nightmare to get to. It's a nightmare to get to. Thankfully, I've got shuttle bus tickets as part of the tickets, so I don't have to worry about parking because that's a nightmare. And the bus gets priority in and out. Yeah, fantastic outdoor amphitheatre. And it will be an amazing show. They are touring Australia and New Zealand. There are some tickets left for the Perth show on the 27th of this month. Some of the shows over Easter sold out. There are a few tickets elsewhere. That's one recommendation. Yeah, Fontaines DC, be a great gig and good lads as well. And then another one is a guy that I saw do a work in progress stand-up show last night at the end of the Fringe Festival in Perth. A guy called Daniel Muggleton, Sydney stand-up, not to be confused with Carl Muggleton for those of a certain vintage. Daniel Muggleton is Sydney comedian, very funny guy, and you probably find him on YouTube if you're outside of Australia. But if you're in Australia, he will be touring later this year. I think he's back in Perth in May. So I imagine he'll be around the country over the course of sort of April, May, June. Check him out. The show that you will be seeing then was the work in progress from last night was the starting point of him working up that into a full coherent show. But yeah, Daniel Muggleton, up and coming stand-up Aussie lad. Give him a check.
I've got nothing for you this week because Pentanet stuffed up my internet all week, and I've been living life without streaming, and it's been very boring. But I've had other things to keep me busy and entertained and distracted. But nothing this week. So I'll be back next week. Perth Festival is kicking off. If you are in Perth, WA, so please get out and support the arts. That was the end of Fringe Festival on the weekend. Apparently, a good showing this time around. So they've done well with all the artists, so that's great. We will be back next week. Who are we playing the weekend? I didn't catch chance to look.
Hibs. And an early kickoff on a Saturday night. Couldn't be better.
A 8:30 kickoff from Perth. What? So we'll be sober. Well, we should all be sober because we're all trying to cut back on the alcohol. So fair play. We'll be relatively sober and awake at an 8:30 kickoff. So expect some more fantastic analysis as we look at Celtic versus Hibs. Hopefully, fingers crossed, toes crossed, we get some sort of result at the Allianz. But, if we do go out, I'd say it's been a relatively successful European campaign. But let's go out with a blast and not a whimper. We'll be back next week. Please join us. And all that's left to say is hail, hail.
Cheers.
Hail,
Thanks, guys. Hail, hail, guys.